Hey, welcome to Legals and Biz with Riz, the podcast offering you business and legal tips without the boring legalese. I'm your host, Riz McDonald, and I'm here to answer your questions and offer general advice in the clearest way possible. So grab your beverage of choice, sit back, and get ready to build your empire with Found Legal. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Legals and Biz with Riz. Today, I'm going to be talking about privacy policies and why your website needs one. But before I get into that, I've got some super exciting news. So here at Found Legal, we recently opened the doors to our free course. Yes, you heard that right. Free course, 5 steps to scaling a legally legit empire. It starts Monday, the 8th of June, if you are listening to this before, and it finishes on Friday, the 12th of June. The link's going to be in the show notes, and it's also on my Instagram at Found Legal. It's going to be epic, guys. It's covering things like how to protect your copyright, how to get paid on time, how to avoid scope creep, and so much more. I am so excited. Now, before I get too excited, we best get back on topic. So we're talking about privacy policies. So the question is, does your website have one? Australian law requires, and I'm straight into the law there, guys, apologies, that websites that collect and store information need to have a privacy policy. And look, pretty much every website collects information in some way, shape or form. And yes, email signups do count. And so a privacy policy is a must. Now, question is, what is a privacy policy, you ask? And how do I get one? Well, a privacy policy is basically a document that explains how you handle the personal information of your customers and website users. Now, online privacy is a huge concern for people. So including a privacy policy on your website is not only a legal requirement, but it really does work, in my view and experience, to build trust and assure users you're not going to sell their details to third parties or spam them with unrelated content. Now, businesses around the world are recognizing the importance of privacy policies, which I think is great. What's not so great is that businesses are simply copying privacy policies from other websites rather than taking the time to establish their own documents. This is a really terrible idea for 2 reasons. Firstly, the privacy policy copied might not be relevant to your business. And secondly, the privacy policy copied might not outline what your business actually does. This is just a recipe for disaster. So it's really important that you don't copy a privacy policy, but take the time to create your own. So what are the requirements for a privacy policy? So as I mentioned, it's a legal requirement in Australia to have a privacy policy if your website collects, stores, and uses any personal information. This information could be things such as email addresses, physical addresses, phone numbers, credit cards, details, and so on. And your privacy policy needs to be in compliance with the Privacy Act and the Australian Privacy Principles. So don't be fooled, please. Even if your website is strictly for marketing purposes or functions solely as a blog, the mere inclusion of a contact form or newsletter sign up will make it necessary for you to include a privacy policy. Now, I want to talk you through the elements that should be included in a privacy policy and what that should look like. This is a short podcast, so I'm not going to go into a great detail, but I will outline at a high level the elements that you need to include. So with a privacy policy, there's a couple of things that you need to be mindful of. Firstly, it should clearly express how personal information will be managed. It needs to be open, transparent, and easy to understand. You don't want one of those privacy policies that goes on for about 20 pages and is in this legalese language that nobody can understand. You need a dictionary to work out what it all means. That's a really poor customer experience, and it's just not going to cut it, really. The best privacy policies keep their core audience in mind and are written in a way that makes sense to them. So I've kind of outlined here some key components that I think you should include in a privacy policy. Firstly, I think you need to explain the way information is collected and handled. So just outline the type of information you might collect and store, the way you collect it, and the purpose for which you're going to collect it, hold it, use it, and disclose it. So if you're collecting information through a contact form and storing it on MailChimp and then using that information to email people, then you need to tell them that in your privacy policy. You need to take the time to assure your customers that you're not going to spam, sell, or rent their email addresses or other personal information. Now, if you do plan to disclose personal information, and look, as a business, there are going to be situations where you need to do that, then you need to say so in your privacy policy. And if you're an e-commerce business or a business that sells anything online, then your privacy policy should also include information about how you handle your customers' credit card details. And you need to reference, as good practice really, the privacy policies of your payment processing providers. And look, it might be their requirement that you include it as well. Now, if your website allows comments and reviews or includes adverts that track visitors, then your privacy policy should include this information. In fact, it needs to. Pop quiz. A beauty blogger becomes an affiliate for a makeup brand and then begins to include trackable ads on their blog. Should the beauty blogger include this information in their privacy policy? The answer is yes. Most definitely yes. Okay, next thing that you need to consider including in your privacy policy. Your privacy policy should tell customers how they can access and correct any information you hold. It should also let them know how they can unsubscribe from any email marketing lists. And the other thing you should be doing is including your contact details. And that includes your email address and telling them how they can complain if they suspect a potential privacy breach. Now, the other thing you should be dealing with is cookies and tracking. You need to tell customers if any cookies are used on your website. And you may also need to comply with GDPR. What's that, I hear you ask? It's known as General Data Protection Regulation. This is the European Union's data protection law, which came into force in 2018. Now, GDPR doesn't just apply to European-based businesses. It also applies to any business that processes personal data relating to an individual in the European Union. So, even if you are an Australian business, there is a chance that GDPR may apply to you, your clients, or the work you undertake online. So you do need to be mindful of that as well. Now, if your website uses tracking software like Google Analytics or advertising networks that rely on online tracking, then you should also disclose this in your privacy policy. In fact, it's a condition of using Google services that you have the appropriate notice included in your privacy policy. The other thing you should be mindful of is using and updating privacy policies. Privacy policies should be updated if there's a major change to any systems or procedures that impact the way data is stored. And this change should also be followed up with clear communication to your customers. You can achieve that by updating the date of the effective date of the privacy policy on your website, and good practice would be to notify them as well via email. So as you can see, there's a number of things you need to be considering when you put together a privacy policy. And as I said earlier, this is just a high level and a good starting point before you put together a privacy policy and not copy somebody else's. Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode and I can't wait to see you next week. Bye for now. Well, that's it for this episode of Legals and Biz with Riz. As always, thanks for listening. If you like this episode, raise a glass and show us some love by subscribing. And if you're feeling extra jazzed, we'd love a little review. If there are any topics you'd like to hear about, shoot us a message and we'll get on it. Till next time, this is Riz, a Found Legal, signing off.